There are people who live to earn. There are people who live to achieve. And then, there are a few rare souls who live to understand. They don't chase money, fame, or recognition. They chase truth. They question everything, not to argue, but to awaken. One such soul was Albert Einstein, the man the world remembers as a scientist. But few realize he was also a spiritual seeker. He wasn't just solving equations. He was searching for God hidden in those equations. Born in Germany in 1879, Einstein began life as a quiet, curious child who spoke late but thought deeply. His teachers called him slow. His classmates ignored him. But behind that silence was a storm of imagination, a mind that refused to accept anything without proof. He believed that behind every mystery of the universe, light, time, space, or energy, there was a divine pattern, a sacred intelligence that science could only glimpse. Einstein once said, "I want to know how God created this world. I am not interested in this or that phenomenon. I want to know his thoughts, the rest are details." To him, science and spirituality were not enemies. They were two languages trying to describe the same truth. That everything in the universe is connected, and every atom holds a spark of the divine light. He spent his life chasing light, not just the light that travels through space, but the light that awakens the human soul. This is the story of the man who questioned everything, and in doing so, found God in the equation. The boy who spoke late. In the small town of Ulm, Germany, in 1879, a baby was born whose silence worried his parents deeply. His name was Albert Einstein. He didn't speak a word until he was 4 years old, and when he finally did, he spoke so slowly that his family thought something was wrong with him. Teachers called him lazy, daydreamer, and mentally slow. Yet, within that quiet child lived a mind that would one day shake the very foundations of science and philosophy, and show the world that God and the universe are not two different realities but one eternal truth expressed in different languages. Einstein's journey began with a simple but powerful question that would define his entire life. What would the world look like if I could ride on a beam of light? While other children played outside, young Albert sat alone, staring at the sunlight dancing on the walls, lost in deep thought. His mind was not drawn toward wealth or success. It was drawn toward truth, the kind of truth that saints and spiritual seekers talk about when they say, "Everything is one." At the age of 12, he found a book on geometry, and he called it his holy little geometry book. He would later say, "When I found out that certain truths could be proved with absolute certainty, it was like finding God." Einstein's journey was not easy. He failed several school exams. One of his teachers told him, "You will never amount to anything." But instead of breaking him, these words built him. He was thrown out of school for questioning his teachers, yet he never stopped questioning, because questioning, for him, was a form of worship. He once said, "The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing." In his eyes, science was not separate from spirituality. He used to say, "Science without religion is lame, and religion without science is blind." These words echo deeply with Sikh philosophy too, where Gurmat teaches that wisdom, gyan, and devotion, bhakti, must go hand in hand. The Miracle Year, 1905. Einstein's Annus Mirabilis, his miracle year, came in 1905. In 1 year, he published 4 groundbreaking papers that would forever change how humanity understands time, space, and light. He introduced the world to the theory of relativity, the idea that time and space are not fixed, but relative, changing according to the observer's movement. He said that energy and mass are the same, bound by the equation E equals mc squared. This was not just a scientific formula, it was a spiritual revelation in mathematical form. It meant that everything we see, stars, planets, human beings, are made of the same divine energy. What Sikhs call Ikonkar, there is one reality, Einstein described through physics. He once said, "My religion consists of a humble admiration of the illimitable spirit that reveals itself in the little details we are able to perceive with our frail and feeble mind." The humble genius. Despite becoming one of the most famous men in the world, Einstein lived simply. He refused luxury. He wore the same kind of clothes every day, ate modestly, and loved playing his violin in silence. Once a student asked him, "Sir, how do you feel to be the smartest man alive?" Einstein smiled and said, "I don't know. You'll have to ask Nikola Tesla." His humility was his true intelligence. He never claimed ownership of truth. He said, "I want to know how God created this world. I am not interested in this or that phenomenon. I want to know his thoughts. The rest are details." This deep humility, this oneness with the divine order, is exactly what Sikh gurus teach. The gurus said, "Man tu jot sarup hai, apna mool pachan." O human, you are the embodiment of the divine light, realize your source. Einstein's science, in its essence, was this very realization expressed in the language of physics. When the World Burned, Einstein and Compassion. During World War II, Einstein saw how science could be misused for destruction. His discoveries in energy indirectly led to the atomic bomb, though he never wanted it to be used that way. He said with pain, "The unleashed power of the atom has changed everything except our way of thinking." He spent the rest of his life advocating for peace, unity, and compassion. He stood up for equality, spoke against racism, and supported people of all faiths and colors. He once said, Our task must be to free ourselves by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. This universal compassion is what every Sikh lives by. Sarbat die Bala, the welfare of all. Einstein didn't see God as a man in the sky but as an infinite intelligence that pervades the cosmos. He often said, "I want to believe in Spinoza's God, who reveals himself in the orderly harmony of what exists." He believed that prayer was not about asking for things, but about tuning your mind to the frequency of the divine. He once wrote, "The most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious. It is the fundamental emotion that stands at the cradle of true art and science." To him, wonder was worship. And that is a message for every seeker, whether through Gurbani, meditation, or curiosity. Seek not power, but understanding. In 1955, Albert Einstein passed away quietly, refusing surgery to prolong his life. He said, "It is tasteless to prolong life artificially. I have done my share. It is time to go." Even in death, he remained humble. His body was cremated, and his ashes scattered, leaving behind only one thing that never dies: his light. Einstein's life teaches us that greatness is not measured by fame, money, or power, but by curiosity, humility, and compassion. He turned science into a form of prayer. He showed that faith and reason are not enemies. They are two wings of the same bird. For Sikhs, his message resonates deeply. Have faith in oneness. Serve humanity selflessly. Seek truth fearlessly. And remain humble, no matter how high you rise. Just as Guru Nanak Dev Ji said, "Even kings and emperors with heaps of wealth and vast dominion cannot compare with an ant filled with the love of God." Albert Einstein lived and died with that same humility, a scientist who touched the face of God not through prayer beads, but through equations, compassion, and endless curiosity. The day Albert Einstein refused fame and chose silence instead. After Einstein became world famous for his theory of relativity, the world began to treat him like a saint of science. Wherever he went, crowds followed. People asked for his autograph. Reporters surrounded him with cameras and questions. Nations offered him awards, riches, and high posts. But inside, Einstein felt something strange, a deep loneliness. He once said, "It is strange to be known so universally and yet be so lonely." The fame that others dreamt of gave him no peace. One day, while traveling on a train in Germany, a young man recognized him and excitedly said, "Professor Einstein, you have changed the world with your mind." Einstein smiled gently and asked, "Young man, have you changed your own mind?" The boy was confused. Einstein continued, "Changing the world is easy. People do it every day with inventions, weapons, and wealth. But changing oneself, that is the real work of genius. That short conversation became one of the most remembered lessons from his life. It showed that for Einstein, true intelligence was not about how much you know, but about how deeply you understand yourself. In 1922, Einstein was in Tokyo. He had just received news that he had won the Nobel Prize, the highest honor in science. At that moment, a hotel worker came to deliver a message to his room. Einstein reached for his wallet, but realized he had no change to tip him. So he smiled, picked up a piece of paper, and wrote these simple words in German. A calm and modest life brings more happiness than the pursuit of success combined with constant restlessness. He handed the note to the worker and said, "Maybe someday this will be worth more than a tip." Years later, that note, the Einstein Happiness Note, was sold at auction for $1.56 million. But its true value was never in money. It was in the message that peace of mind is worth more than the applause of the world. Einstein's words echo the same wisdom found in Sikh teachings. Those who conquer their mind, conquer the world. He knew that the universe outside is only a reflection of the universe within. He once said, "A human being is part of the whole, called by us the universe, but he experiences himself as something separated. This delusion is our prison." To him, meditation was not sitting with eyes closed. It was thinking with awareness, feeling the divine presence in every discovery, every formula, every atom. He used to say, "Look deep into nature, and then you will understand everything better." That's why even in his last years, when his body grew weak, his curiosity never died. He said, "I have no special talent. I am only passionately curious." In his final days, when the nurse asked if he wanted anything before surgery, Einstein whispered, "I want to go when I want. It is tasteless to prolong life artificially. I have done my share. It is time to go." Those were the words of a man who had made peace with life, science, and God. He died quietly, with his mind still filled with equations. Equations that tried to describe not just how the universe works, but how the divine expresses itself through creation. Einstein's life teaches us two eternal truths. Question everything, because every question is a step toward God. Stay humble, because every answer is just a drop in an infinite ocean of truth. He showed the world that intelligence without peace is chaos, and peace without curiosity is sleep. He was not just a scientist. He was a seer, a man who looked into the mind of God through mathematics. He questioned everything, and when the answers came, they came not in words, but in silence.